Hello, YouTube pipers. Double O Pipe here. Had a doctor's appointment this morning. I always dread those because they always find something that they have to talk to you about. They can't say, "You're not doing bad for an almost 80-year-old man." But they have to say something. I don't know. I ought to do like my dad did, not go to the doctor until something ain't right. And your body always tells you when something ain't right. Oh, I thought I was putting something else in here, but I thought I was putting Christmas cookie in here, but it's Captain Black Royal. I must have mixed up the jars when I was picking them up. In my bespoke Harriot pipe, and I decided to have a few beers in remembrance of Clyde. Of course, if it were Clyde and me, we'd be drinking down Calvert's Extra. That was the cheapest he could get for the effect. Now, I had something I wanted to say on here today, and now that I'm here, my senior gray cells have taken over, you know, the ones that are blank. Seemed like I had thought about Clyde and something popped up, and I was going to discuss that. Recently, one of my old high school buddies passed away. We haven't really had that much contact. We see each other at, well, we did see each other at reunions, but I stopped going to those. He and I shared some adventures together. We walked out into the pluff mud just off a bridge, facing across the Cooper to Charleston itself on James Island. And old George found what he called a parrot shell. I'm not quite sure what a parrot shell was, but it was shaped like a short, stubby rocket with a pointed end and a barrel end that just came here. And it was a Civil War shot from, I guess, the Yankees somewhere firing it at us. But anyway, I said, "What you going to do with that?" He said, "Well," he said, "I guess we should get in touch with the Naval Weapons Station and see if it's something that I can keep or if it's something that's still has the potential to explode. So seemed like a good idea at the time. So we went back to the car and drove to his house, and he called the weapons station. And they came out and took a look at it and said, "Son, you made a wise decision, because this still has the potential to blow up." So they took it with them to the weapons station, got back in touch with him, and told him, sure enough, it blew up because they put it on the testing range and whatever they do to it, and it just... So I guess we were lucky. I don't know. Maybe if we had dropped it or something, it might have exploded, but we didn't take that chance. And another time, on this little island that I live on called James, there used to be a small single-engine plane airport down the road about a mile or two. And a good friend of George's lived there, and we went over to visit him. It was evening, getting dark. And we were sitting there chatting, and the sun went down, and it just got to be night, crickets and all the sounds. He said, "You want to drive your car on the airfield?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" He said, "Well, let me go get my guns." I said, "What?" So he got some rifles, and we drove out on the airfield. And rabbits were jumping across the airfield in front of us, and he said, "Stop the car." And so I stopped the car. He got out and plinked a couple of rabbits. He said, "Them's good eating, buddy." That old airport's long gone now. And the guy lived on the airport. They lived in a little house at the top of the airport. Sadly, he joined the police force, and while he was off duty and had a couple of beers in him, he went into a store. He always carried his gun, I guess because a police officer is never supposed to be off duty. And somebody pulled out a gun and was going to rob the store. And he jumped out with his gun and said, "Stop, I'm a police officer, lower your gun." And the guy didn't lower his gun. He turned around and shot him. Shot him dead. He was only 20 years old. And everybody on James Island said they knew who it was that had robbed that store, but the police said they could never get enough evidence to prosecute the guy. And the friend of George, his mother, always tried to get them to do something about this guy who shot her son. Up until the day she died, the fella has never been brought to justice. I don't know who it was, but it was a shame that this off-duty police officer, trying to fulfill his duty, shot. Just ain't right. But anyway, old George and I went and picked up a couple other guys. And this new fella that had joined us as part of we weren't a gang, we were just a group of kids that hung out. We picked him up and we went driving, and we were going over to the patio, which was a local drive-in restaurant that everybody from James Island went to and sat. Had hamburgers, and whenever we got to be of age, could drink beer there. This is the same place where Clyde shot up the Kentucky Fried Chicken. Anyway, this fella said, "Come on, get in my car." He had an old Studebaker is what he was driving. And we said, "Okay, we'll ride with you for a while." And we jumped in his car. And I think he went up 61 or one of those roads that heads, excuse me, towards Somerville. And while he was riding, he said, "Uh-oh." And we said, "What?" He said, "I don't have any, I'm on empty." And we said, "Well, get some gas, stop at a gas station." He said, "You know what? I know where we can get gas for nothing." And we said, "Yeah?" He said, "Yeah, I'm gonna go over there. You guys game?" Teenagers, what did we care? We were invincible. We said, "Yeah, let's go. We can remember and do it ourselves next time." We went out to this, it was an old farm somewhere. Drove up real quiet, turned the lights out, went up to where he had a gas vendor for his plowing machine. What do you call it? Damn it, tractor. And he got out and he undid the thing and had the gas thing open. Went over to get the thing, and it was locked. Had a padlock on it. So this boy, somehow he got the padlock open, lifted that and put it in his gas tank. And all of a sudden we heard a screen door slam and somebody yelling, "You sons of bitches, get out of my yard, get away from my gas." Next thing we heard was a boom, shotgun. Well, we all jumped back in that car. Oh, I don't think he took the gas pump out of the gas opening, nor put the thing back on the gas. But he took off and he went riding. We heard another boom. I think a few pellets might have rattled the back of the car. Nothing that penetrated, but it was just scared the hell out of us. We decided, nah, we're not going to go there and get our gas. You can go here if you want to, but not us. And old George just laughed about it. George was a mess. What else do we do? I think I told you about the time that I picked him up. We went over to Folly Beach. He was pretty much running away from home. And a cop stopped us and asked if I was Rick Crouch, and I said, "Yeah." He said, "Boy, how old are you?" And I said, 16. He said, "You can't be. How old are you, boy? I think I'm supposed to arrest him, but I think maybe I should be arresting you." And George said, "I'm 18. He said, "You're an adult. I can arrest you, but I can't arrest him. Not for what he's charged with. Contributing to the delinquency of a minor, because he's the minor." So old George, he took him, this was on Folly Beach, he took him over to the sheriff's office and put him behind bars. It's supposed to be me behind those bars, but no. And George spent the night in the clink. until his daddy came over and picked him up. That was kind of the end of his running away from home. Oh, Lordy me. He was a mess. He went into the Navy and served over in Vietnam on one of those little gunboats that run up and down. If you've seen Apocalypse Now, the gunboats that went up and down the river, he was on one of those. When he came back, he had a Viet Cong flag. I think that was his one souvenir from that encounter. I think he also went in the Merchant Marines for a while. He had quite an adventurous life, I think. After he got divorced, he met a girl here on James Island where we grew up, and he married her, and he said he went all around the world, and there it was, the woman he should have married to begin with right here at home. They stayed married until he passed away recently. I didn't know he had passed away. I had to be told that. I don't get the paper anymore. About the only thing I ever looked in the paper was the obituaries, and I guess I should take it back up so I can see the obituaries, because all the people I grew up with are getting to the age where it's time to pass on. Quite a character. That's about all I can think about. Well, I just felt like I wanted to get on here and yak. I always hate it when I have to go to the doctor's office, and it just ruins my day. But I guess it's something we have to do. I kind of wish they'd just leave me alone. If something happens that I need a doctor, I'd go see the doctor. Of course, now, when I had those ulcers, even when I had a painful attack and internal bleeding, I did not go to the doctor. I just took some antacids and kept on going until the day I fell down at work and couldn't get up and was doubled over with pain. And they took me down to the emergency room and they said, "Boy, what is wrong with you?" I said, "I don't know, but it hurts." That's where they took me in the ER. So maybe, I guess, every 6 months I should go. I'm not the best at going to the doctor if I don't have to. Now, I figured I got up from that first attack, so I was still moving around for another 2 weeks. I figured I was okay, even though I had pain in my stomach. Lordy, 2 bleeding ulcers I had whenever they went in there and cauterized them. But I'd still rather wait and go rather than go every 6 months. It used to be every year, an annual. And I asked the doctor, I said, "When did I go back to an annual checkup?" And they said, "Not anymore." And I just think it's a way for them to make money, because she had me in there for 10 minutes looked at my lab results, took my blood pressure, said, okay, it's gone down enough, because usually it's high when I get there. But that's what she does, and she'll talk to me for a few minutes, listen to my chest, and look at the blood work that I had done, and that's it. Seems like you could mail in your blood work and have them call you and say, we're going to charge you $10 because you okay. You don't need to come in. The only reason I started going to the doctor every 6 months is because I had one of those blood pressure crises at work. Another time I fell down. They say, what the hell? Took my blood pressure something like 200 over something. I don't know. And they gave me medicine, told me I had got to get to a doctor and start making 6-month checkups. And that's the only reason I started doing that. Otherwise, I'd do just like my dad, who only went if he felt like there was something wrong. Oh, well. So I guess it was a good thing I worked in a hospital, huh? Oh, Lordy, I didn't mean for this to go this long. Well, like I said, I appreciate you stopping by and smoking a pipe, having a beverage, and just listen to me prattle on. It was good therapy for me. And I hope, excuse me, I hope that it was okay with you. Take care of yourselves. Till the next time, God bless you.